One of the greatest lessons in life is this: comfort will never grow you, but challenges will shape you. Success doesn't whisper. It hides behind struggle. Failure isn't the end. It's simply life's way of saying, learn, rise, and try again. Every setback carries a hidden message, and the real question is, are you willing to listen? Life's biggest lessons don't come from success, but from failure, pain, and reflection. Success has a strange way of blinding us. When things go right, we often forget to ask why. We celebrate, we enjoy, we smile, but rarely do we pause to analyze. It is in the moments of loss, in the sting of disappointment, in the nights when we lie awake questioning everything, that the real learning begins. Failure carries with it a sharp honesty, a voice that whispers truths we often ignore when everything is going smoothly. Pain forces us to confront reality, and reflection gives that pain meaning. Without those three, failure, pain, reflection, success would be shallow, temporary, and unrepeatable. When you were denied, when you tried your best and still came up short, those moments broke your heart, but they also opened your eyes. They taught you resilience, patience, humility, and strength. They reminded you that you are not entitled to success just because you desire it. You must earn it. And earning it requires growth, and growth requires lessons. Lessons are rarely gentle. They arrive disguised as difficulties, setbacks, or sometimes even heartbreak. The truth is, failure has more value than success if you know how to use it. Most people are so afraid of it that they run from it. They avoid risks, they play small, they hide behind excuses. But here's the paradox. By trying to avoid failure, they also avoid growth. By avoiding growth, they avoid success. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the process that creates it. Every successful person you admire has a trail of failures behind them. They have stories of rejection, of being laughed at, of being told they weren't enough. But instead of stopping, they use those moments as fuel. Pain has its place too. Pain is not just physical. It is emotional, mental, spiritual. Pain sharpens awareness. It tells you that something needs to change. Without pain, we would live in comfort forever, never questioning, never adjusting, never improving. Imagine touching a hot stove. Pain teaches you not to repeat the mistake. Life works the same way. When we suffer a setback, when we feel the sting of loss, the pain is reminding us this is where the lesson is. Some people drown in pain and never rise above it, but the wise use pain as a compass. Instead of asking, why me? They ask, what is this here to teach me? Reflection ties it all together. Pain without reflection just leaves scars. Failure without reflection is wasted. Reflection turns experience into insight. It's not enough to go through hard times. You must grow through them. You must take time to sit down with your thoughts, replay the events, ask yourself the right questions, and extract the lesson. That is where wisdom is born. That is where growth begins. Reflection transforms mistakes into strategies, heartbreaks into understanding, and losses into preparation for the future. But here's the challenge. Most people don't reflect. They get hurt and move on quickly. Or worse, they repeat the same mistake again and again because they never stop to analyze. Life keeps handing them the same lesson in different forms until they finally choose to learn. Reflection is the discipline of saying, before I rush forward, let me pause. Let me ask, What went wrong? What can I do differently? What must I change about myself? The discipline of reflection is what separates those who drift through life from those who grow into greatness. You know, the greatest lesson you will ever learn is that failure, pain, and reflection are not punishments. They are gifts. They are the raw materials out of which success is built. Without them, you would never develop the character, the strength, the wisdom, or the resilience to handle what you re-asking life to give you. People want success without scars, but scars are proof you've fought, proof you've endured, proof you've grown. The scar is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of survival and learning. You know, think of the tree that grows strong in the storm. The wind bends it, the rain batters it, the seasons strip it bare. But each storm makes its roots dig deeper, its trunk grow stronger. Without storms, the tree would be weak. Without storms, it would never reach its full height. You are the same. Life storms are not there to destroy you. They are there to deepen your roots and strengthen your foundation. The challenge is not to wish for a life without problems, but to develop yourself so you can handle them. The real victory is not in avoiding failure, but in learning so deeply from it that you become unstoppable. The lesson is not in escaping pain, but in allowing it to refine you. The wisdom is not in rushing past reflection, but in giving yourself time to extract the treasure hidden in the trial. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and achievement. Everyone dreams, but not everyone achieves. Dreams are free, they cost nothing. You can dream sitting on your couch. You can dream while you sleep. You can dream while doing nothing. But achievement has a price. It demands sacrifice, consistency, and effort. That price is paid through discipline. Discipline is the daily choice to act, even when you don't feel like it. It's waking up, rather stay in bed. It is working on your goals when the easier option is to waste another evening. It's saying no to distractions when temptation is all around you. Discipline is what takes imagination and molds it into reality. Now, most people don't fail because they lack talent or intelligence. They fail because they lack discipline. They know what they should do. They make promises to themselves, but they break them. They set goals, but never take consistent steps toward them. Discipline is what keeps you moving when motivation runs out, and it always runs out. Motivation is like a spark, but discipline is the firewood. Without discipline, motivation burns out quickly, but with discipline, you can keep the fire alive for a lifetime. Now, think about it. Everything valuable requires discipline. Health requires discipline. You can eat whatever you want, whenever you want, and expect to be strong and fit. Wealth requires discipline. You can't spend recklessly, avoid saving, ignore learning, and expect to prosper. Relationships require discipline. You can neglect communication, avoid effort, and expect them to thrive. Every important part of life rewards the disciplined and punishes the undisciplined. Discipline is not punishment. It is preparation. It prepares you for success by shaping you into the kind of person capable of handling it. Dreams without discipline. You see the vision in your mind. You imagine the life you want, but without the daily habits and sacrifices, the dream stays locked in your imagination. That gap between where you are and where you want to be can only be crossed with the bridge of discipline. The world is full of dreamers, but very few achievers, and the difference is not luck or fate. It is discipline. The disciplined person may not be the most talented But talent without discipline will always be defeated by effort with discipline. Now, discipline is doing what needs to be done whether you feel like it or not. Feelings are unreliable. They change with the weather. They shift with your mood. They rise and fall with circumstances. If you rely on feelings to guide your actions, your life will be unstable, inconsistent, and unproductive. Discipline, however, is stable. It is a decision made once and acted upon daily. It says, I don't care how I feel. I care about what must be done. That mindset separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Consider the athlete who trains when no one is watching, the entrepreneur who works late into the night while others sleep, the student who studies while friends are out having fun. These individuals understand that freedom and success are earned through discipline. The discipline may sacrifice in the short term, but they gain in the long term. The undisciplined may enjoy comfort in the short term, but they pay with regret in the long term. Discipline is the price of freedom. Without it, you are a slave to laziness, excuses, and bad habits. Some people see discipline as restrictive, but the truth is, discipline gives you control. When you are disciplined with your time, you own your schedule instead of being a victim of it. When you are disciplined with your money, you control your finances instead of being controlled by debt. When you are disciplined with your habits, you control your future instead of drifting aimlessly. Discipline is not about denying yourself. It is about directing yourself. It is not about taking away joy. It is about creating a life of meaning. The challenge is that discipline is difficult at first. Starting is hard. Building new habits feels uncomfortable. Sacrifice feels painful. But over time, discipline becomes a habit, and habits become character. What once felt heavy becomes automatic. The disciplined person doesn't constantly battle with themselves because they have trained their mind and body to obey their decisions. The first stage of discipline is struggle, the second stage is growth, and the third stage is freedom. Once discipline becomes part of who you are, it feels strange not to follow it. Every day is a test of discipline. Do you choose the easy thing now or the better thing later? Do you give in to distraction or stay focused? Do you waste time or invest it? Every decision you make adds to your discipline or subtracts from it. Discipline is not one big decision. It is thousands of small ones, repeated daily, that create momentum. If you want things to change, you must first change yourself. It is easy to look at the world, at circumstances, at other people, and demand that they be different. It is easy to blame the economy, the government, the environment, even luck. But the truth is, none of those things hold the key to your future as much as you do. Real change begins within. If you want a better tomorrow, you must become a better person today. Your income does not rise until your value rises. Your relationships do not improve until you improve. Your opportunities do not multiply until you expand who you are. Many people wait for life to change before they do. They say, when things get easier, I'll start. They say, when I have more money, I will invest. They say, when I have more time, I'll focus on my goals. But that thinking is backwards. Waiting for circumstances to shift before you act is like waiting for the wind to blow in your favor instead of learning to set the sail. You don't wait for life to change. You change, and life responds. The world does not improve for you. It improves because you improve. Think about this. The same wind blows on us all. The wind of opportunity, the wind of difficulty, the wind of change. But it is not the wind that determines your direction. It is the set of your sail. The person who learns to adjust the sail, who learns to respond instead of complain, who learns to take responsibility instead of blame, is the one who reaches their destination. That ability to change yourself in response to the wind is the greatest power you will ever have. Change begins with a decision that you will no longer live by excuses, a decision that you will no longer accept the limitations you once believed were permanent, a decision that you will no longer point fingers outward, but instead look inward. Once that decision is made, the process begins. You begin to read new books, you begin to ask new questions, you begin to spend time with new people, you begin to form new habits. Slowly, as you change, everything around you begins to shift as well. The mistake most people make is believing that external change is the answer. They think a new job will solve their problems. But if they bring the same mindset, the same habits, the same lack of discipline into that job, the problems follow them. They think a new relationship will solve their loneliness, but if they have not worked on themselves, patterns repeat. They think moving to a new city, starting a new project, buying new things will create happiness, but the truth remains, you take yourself with you wherever you go. If you want better, you must become better. Personal growth is the foundation of all other growth. If you work harder on yourself than you do on your job will improve. If you work harder on yourself than you do on your relationships will flourish. If you work harder on yourself than you do on your circumstances will begin to align with the person you are becoming. Your life is a mirror reflecting not what you want, but who you are. If you want more, you must become more. Consider the farmer. He cannot demand a harvest without planting seeds. He cannot expect a field of abundance if he never tilled the soil, never watered, never protected the crops. Life works the same way. You cannot demand rewards without first putting in the work on yourself. If you want more opportunity, you must plant the seeds of discipline, of knowledge, of persistence. If you want stronger relationships, you must plant the seeds of patience, of kindness, of understanding. The harvest is always a reflection of the seed. If you don't like what you reaping, the answer is not to curse the field. It is to change what you are sowing. This is where responsibility comes in. Responsibility is not a burden, it is a gift. When you realize that your life is not shaped by luck, not shaped by chance, not shaped by others, but shaped by your choices, you step into power. You stop waiting and start creating. You stop complaining and start changing. You stop hoping someone else will fix things, and you begin to work on yourself. Responsibility is the gateway to freedom because it means you hold the pen that writes your story. The beauty of change is that it doesn't have to be massive overnight. It begins with small, simple decisions. Reading a few pages a day instead of watching endless hours of distraction. Waking up a little earlier to invest in your health. Choosing to listen instead of argue. Choosing to save instead of spend. Each small change compounds over time into a transformation. And the moment you begin to change yourself, you begin to notice how the world around you responds. Opportunities appear. People treat you differently. Doors open. Not because the world suddenly shifted, but because you did. Happiness is not something you pursue. It is something you design. Too many people spend their lives chasing happiness like an S, hiding somewhere in the distance. They say, if I get the promotion, then I'll be happy. If I buy the car, then I'll be happy. If I meet the right person, then I'll be happy. But every time they reach the milestone, the feeling slips away. Happiness is not a prize waiting at the finish line. It is a choice you create in the present. It is not a chase. It is a design. You build it with your values, your habits, your mindset, and your daily decisions. The problem with pursuing happiness is that it always stays ahead of you. When you attach happiness to external things, it moves every time the goal moves. You think you will be satisfied when you earn a certain amount, but the moment you reach it, you want more. You think you'll be fulfilled when you live in a certain place, but the moment you arrive, the excitement fades. You think someone else will complete you, but people are imperfect and cannot carry the full weight of your joy. If happiness depends on circumstances, then happiness will always be unstable. Happiness begins with gratitude. When you learn to appreciate what you have, instead of complaining about what you lack, to a different reality, gratitude transforms ordinary days into blessings, routine jobs into opportunities, and small things into treasures. Happiness does not come from adding more, but from appreciating more. A person who has little but lives with gratitude can feel wealthier than the person who has much but lives with discontent. Gratitude is the soil from which true happiness grows. Happiness also comes from purpose. Without purpose, life feels empty, no matter how comfortable it looks from the outside. Purpose gives meaning to effort, reason to sacrifice, and fulfillment to work. People often confuse pleasure with happiness, but they are not the same. Pleasure is temporary. It comes from what you consume. Happiness is lasting. It comes from what you contribute. Pleasure fades, but purpose sustains. When your life is connected to something bigger than yourself, every day carries meaning. Another key to designing happiness is growth. Human beings are designed to progress. When we grow, we feel alive. Stagnation creates frustration. Even if life is comfortable, without growth it feels empty. Growth does not always mean massive leaps. It can be small daily improvements. Learning something new, building a new skill, overcoming a weakness, developing better habits, all of these add to happiness because they prove that you are becoming more than you were yesterday. Growth is a hidden source of joy because it turns effort into confidence and struggle into accomplishment. Relationships also play a role in happiness, but not in the way most people think. Happiness is not found in depending on others to make you whole. It is found in being whole and then sharing yourself with others. The strongest relationships are between two complete individuals who come together, not two empty individuals hoping to fill each other's void. Happiness in relationships comes from contribution, not demand, from giving, not taking, from understanding, not controlling. When you focus on being the best version of yourself, you attract and build better relationships, and that shared connection adds depth to your happiness. Happiness must also be protected. The world is full of noise, negativity, and distractions that can drain your joy if you let them. You cannot allow comparison to steal your happiness. The moment you measure your life against someone else's highlight reel, you rob yourself of appreciation for your own journey. You cannot allow bitterness to poison your happiness. Holding on to resentment only burns you, not the person who hurt you. Forgiveness is not about excusing others. It is about freeing yourself. Happiness is not possible in a heart full of grudges. Right? Discipline is another ingredient of happiness, though most people don't connect the two. At first, discipline feels like sacrifice, but it eventually produces freedom. A disciplined life leads to health, financial stability, strong relationships, and confidence. These create a foundation for lasting happiness. The undisciplined life may feel pleasurable in the moment, but it leads to regret, and regret is the greatest thief of happiness. When you know you are living true to your values, keeping your promises, and honoring your potential, happiness follows naturally. Happiness is not about what you get. It is about who you become. If you become a person of gratitude, purpose, growth, love, forgiveness, and discipline, happiness becomes your natural state. It doesn't matter where you live, how much you have, or what others think. Happiness is an inside job, and once you design it within yourself, no one can take it away. Success is not to be chased. It is to be attracted by the person you become. Many people spend their whole lives running after success, as if it were something hiding, just out of reach. They chase money, they chase recognition, they chase titles, they chase approval. But the more they chase, the further it seems to slip away. The reason is simple. Success is not something you pursue directly. It is something you attract by building yourself into the kind of person who naturally creates it. Imagine someone who wants wealth but never develops discipline, who wants respect but never builds character, who wants opportunity skills. They may chase endlessly, but success will not come. On the other hand, imagine someone who works daily on themselves, who invests in learning, who develops courage, who grows in discipline, who cultivates integrity. But success finds them because they have become the type of person success belongs to. It is like a garden. You cannot chase fruit. You must plant seeds, water them, protect them, and nurture the soil. Over time, the harvest comes not because you ran after it, but because you created the conditions for it to grow. Life works the same way. Success is the harvest of personal growth. You don't chase it, you prepare for it, and when you are ready, it arrives. This is why the most important question is not, what am I getting, but what am I becoming? Because getting without becoming never lasts. If you gain money without becoming financially disciplined, you will lose it. If you gain influence without becoming wise, you will abuse it. If you gain recognition without becoming strong, you will collapse under its weight. But when you become the kind of person capable of handling those blessings, they not only arrive, but they stay. Success is attracted to value, and value comes from who you are. If you want more, you must become more. If you want a better career, you must become more skilled. If you want better relationships, you must become more patient, more understanding, more giving. If you want more opportunity, you must become more prepared. Life does not reward demand, it rewards contribution. You don't get paid for time, you get paid for the value you bring to that time. And the only way to bring more value is to become more valuable yourself. The chase for success often leads people to shortcuts. They try to find the fastest way, the easiest path, the trick that will unlock everything. But shortcuts never build strength. They may give temporary results, but without growth, those results fade quickly. Real success is built on a foundation, and that foundation is you. When you become stronger, wiser, more disciplined, more resilient, success comes naturally. It doesn't need to be chased because it is drawn to the person you are becoming. Think about the magnet. A magnet does not chase metal, it attracts it. The stronger the magnet, the more it draws. The stronger the person, the more success is drawn toward them. Chasing is exhausting, but attracting is natural. The way you attract is by transformation, by growth, by building habits, character, skills, and mindset that align with the success you want. This principle also explains why some people, when they lose everything, can rebuild again. They may lose money, position, or possessions, but they still have the person they became in the process. They have the skills, the mindset, the habits, and the strength, and so they rise again. Others may gain success by accident or luck, but without the inner strength to sustain it, they collapse when challenges come. Success is not about what you hold in your hands. It is about what you carry within. The real work, then, is not chasing after more, but building yourself into more. Read the books that make you think bigger. Develop the habits that make you stronger. Practice the discipline that makes you reliable. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow. Every step you take in becoming more valuable makes you more attractive to success. The world cannot ignore a person who constantly improves. Too often people ask, what do I need to do to get success? A better question is, who do I need to become so that success is attracted to me? That shift changes everything. It takes the focus away from chasing outcomes and places it on personal development. The more you become, the more you attract. It's just not luck, it's just not magic, it's a principle of life. Success has requirements, and those requirements are not external, they are internal. If you want wealth, you must become disciplined and wise with money. If you want leadership, you must become a person of character and vision. If you want influence, you must become a person who serves and contributes. The reward always matches the person. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Life will always present challenges, difficulties, and obstacles. That is the nature of progress. Too often people look at their struggles and think, if only this was easier, I could succeed. But the truth is, life does not get easier. The economy will always rise and fall. Opportunities will always shift. Competition will always exist. Challenges will always come. Waiting for life to become easy is like waiting for the ocean to stop having waves. The waves don't stop. You just learn how to surf. The problem with wishing for things to be easier is that it makes you passive. It makes you hope for circumstances to change instead of taking responsibility to change yourself. If you wish for fewer problems, you are wishing for a smaller life. The bigger your goals, the bigger your challenges. The higher you want to climb, the stronger you must become. So instead of saying, I hope this gets easier, the better approach is to say, I will get better. When you get better, what once looked impossible becomes manageable, and what once felt heavy becomes light. Think about lifting weights. At first, the bar feels heavy, maybe even impossible to lift. But with training, with practice, with persistence, the same bar that once crushed you becomes easy. Did the weight get lighter? No, you got stronger. Life works the same way. Your problems are not designed to get smaller. You are designed to get stronger. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to grow muscles you did not know you had, muscles of discipline, patience, resilience. The weight does not change, but you do. Most people spend their energy wishing for circumstances to change instead of working to change themselves. They say, I wish my boss was easier to deal with. But a better wish is, I wish to become better at communication and patience. They say, I wish I had more money. But a better wish is, I wish to become better at creating value so that I can earn more. They say, I wish life was fair. But a better wish is, I wish to become strong enough to handle life as it is. Wishing for easy robs you of power. Wishing to become better gives you power. The real breakthrough in life is when you stop asking for fewer problems and start asking for more skills. When you stop asking for smaller challenges and start asking for greater wisdom. When you stop hoping the path will smooth out and start training your feet to handle the rough terrain. That shift turns frustration into empowerment. You can't control the wind, but you can control your sail. You can control the storm, but you can control your preparation. The storm is not the problem. It is your preparation that determines whether you sink or sail. The truth is, every level of life requires a new version of you. What got you here will not get you there. Will not get you there. The skills that carried you through one stage of success are not enough for the next. The discipline that was good enough for last year is not good enough for this year. The mindset that helped you survive before will not help you thrive now. Growth is not optional if you want to keep moving forward. Life will keep demanding more of you, and that is not unfair. It is the design. It is what forces you to grow, to stretch, to rise. Think about people who pray for an easy life. If life were truly easy, there would be no reason to grow, no reason to fight, no reason to achieve. Comfort never made anyone strong. Struggle is the furnace where greatness is forged. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Muscles grow through resistance. Leaders are shaped in times of crisis. Without difficulty, you would never discover the depth of your strength. The problem is not the problem. The problem is your unwillingness to grow to meet it. So the real question is not, will life get easier? The real question is, will you get better? Will you learn the skills, build the habits, develop the mindset, and create the resilience to face what life throws at you? Because once you do, you stop fearing challenges and start embracing them. You stop running from obstacles and start using them as training. You stop complaining and start growing. The beauty of this principle is that it works in every area of life. In health, don a wish for the diet to be easier. Wish to become stronger in discipline. In finances, don't wish for instant wealth. Wish to become more skilled at creating, saving, and investing. In relationships, don't wish for people to change. Wish to become more patient, more understanding, more giving. In career, don't wish for less competition. Wish to become so valuable that competition doesn't matter. Every situation offers you two paths. The path of wishing for ease or the path of working for improvement. One leads to frustration, the other leads to transformation. Your philosophy, the way you think about life, shapes your destiny more than circumstances. Two people can face the same problem, but one sees defeat while the other sees opportunity. Two people can walk through the same storm, but one curses the rain while the other plants seeds. The difference is not the weather. It is not the problem. It is not the economy, it is the philosophy guiding their thoughts. Your philosophy is the lens through which you interpret life, and that lens determines every choice, every action, and ultimately every result. Most people underestimate the power of philosophy. They think success comes from luck, from talent, from being in the right place at the right time. But without the right philosophy, even luck is wasted. Without the right philosophy, talent is misused. Without the right philosophy, opportunity passes unnoticed. Philosophy is the foundation. If your philosophy is weak, everything built upon it will eventually collapse. But if your philosophy is strong, you can withstand setbacks, losses, even failure, and still find your way back to success. Consider two farmers. One sees the changing seasons and prepares. He plants when it's time to plant. He waters when it's time to water. He harvests when it's time to harvest. His philosophy tells him that seasons change, that effort is rewarded, that patience is necessary. The other farmer complains about the weather. He says it's too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry. His philosophy tells him that life is unfair, that the world is against him, that it doesn't matter what he does. Both farmers live under the same sky, but their results are completely different because their philosophies are different. Your philosophy decides how you use your time. Someone with a weak philosophy wastes hours on meaningless entertainment, while someone with a strong philosophy invests hours in learning and building and growing. Your philosophy, some see it only as something to spend, while others see it as something to multiply. Your philosophy decides. Some see them as transactions, while others see them as opportunities for service and contribution. It is not the world that decides for you. It is your philosophy that guides your hand. A person's philosophy is shaped by the ideas they consume. If you fill your mind with negativity, with fear, with excuses, your philosophy will become poisoned. And that poison will spread into your actions, and those actions will poison your results. But if you fill your mind with truth, wisdom, inspiration, and discipline, your philosophy becomes strong, and that strength carries into your actions, and those actions bring lasting results. The mind is a garden, and your philosophy is the soil. Whatever you plant grows, whether it is weeds or fruit. Philosophy is also revealed in how you interpret failure. Some people fail once and decide they are doomed. Their philosophy tells them failure is the end. Others fail 10 times and decide they are closer to success. Their philosophy tells them failure is a lesson. The same event, but two entirely different outcomes because of two entirely different ways of thinking. Success is not determined by avoiding failure. It is determined by how your philosophy interprets failure. If you want to change your life, you must first change your philosophy. That means asking new questions, reading new ideas, seeking new mentors, surrounding yourself with people who challenge your thinking instead of confirming your excuses. You cannot expect a new life with an old way of thinking. You cannot expect to rise with a philosophy that keeps you crawling. Growth begins in the mind, and philosophy is the soil from which everything else grows. Okay? Your philosophy is what keeps you moving when life is heavy. It is what stops you from giving up when others do. It is what allows you to see possibility when others see only problems. Without it, you drift. With it, you direct. Without it, life pushes you wherever it wants. With it, you steer life where you want to go. That is the difference between living by chance and living by choice. This is why two people can have the same resources, the same opportunities, the same environment, yet one thrives while the other fails. It is not the resources, it is not the environment, it is the philosophy. One says, I can tea because I don't tea have enough. The other says, I must because I don't tea have enough. One says, I'll wait for the perfect time. The other says, the best time is now. One says, it's impossible. The other says, it's a challenge worth taking. Their philosophy shapes their destiny. Your philosophy does not have to be complicated, but it does have to be intentional. It can be as simple as believing that discipline creates freedom, that gratitude creates joy, that effort creates reward, that growth creates opportunity. Those beliefs, lived daily, can shape an extraordinary life. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace, and the marketplace rewards us according to that value. It does not reward us for our need. It does not reward us for our intentions. It rewards us only for the value we create. This is one of the greatest lessons of life, and yet it is often misunderstood. People say, if only I had more money, I could do more. But the truth is the opposite. If you become more valuable, you will naturally earn more. Money is not the goal. It is the result of increasing the value you bring to others. The marketplace is fair in its own way. It does care how much you want. It does care how much you dream. It doesn't even care how much you struggle. It responds only to the value you produce. A person can be honest, loyal, and kind and still remain broke because the marketplace does not pay for honesty, loyalty, or kindness. These are wonderful qualities, but they must be combined with skills, knowledge, creativity, and discipline to create value that others recognize and are willing to pay for. The marketplace rewards solutions, ideas, services, and products that make life better, easier, or more meaningful. This is why two people can work the same number of hours, and one earns 10 times more than the other. The difference is not the clock. The difference is value. One person has spent years improving their skills, mastering their craft, developing themselves, while the other has remained the same. Marketplace pays the difference. That is why it is not enough to simply work harder. You must also work smarter. Develop yourself and multiply your value. If you want to change your income, you must first change your value. Ask yourself, how can I make myself more valuable to my company, to my clients, to the world? What new skills can I learn? What new habits can I form? What new problems can I solve? Because when you grow, your income grows. When you stagnate, your income stagnates. It is not a matter of luck. It is a matter of value. This lesson extends beyond money. Even in relationships, the people who bring value through love, support, encouragement, and contribution are the ones who build lasting bonds. In communities, those who add value by serving, inspiring, or leading are the ones who leave legacies. In every area of life, the principle remains the same. Value attracts reward. If you want to attract more, you must become more. The trap many people fall into is wishing for easier circumstances instead of becoming more capable. They say, I wish the company paid more, instead of asking, how can I make myself worth more? They say, I wish life was fairer, instead of asking, how can I become stronger, wiser, and more skilled? The first path leads to frustration. The second path leads to opportunity. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for fewer challenges, wish for greater wisdom. When you increase your value, the challenges that once defeated you become the very tools that elevate you. Think of it this way. The world does not pay for time. It pays for value delivered within time. You can spend an hour complaining, and that hour pays you nothing. Or you can spend an hour learning, creating, or serving, and that hour may bring returns for years to come. The marketplace has no emotion. It has no sympathy. It responds only to value. And that is empowering, because it means no one can stop you from increasing your value. It is completely in your control. Value is built in silence. It is built in the hours you spend reading when others are watching television. It is built in the early mornings you dedicate to developing your skills while others sleep. It is built in the discipline of practicing, refining, and pushing yourself when no one is watching. By the time the world sees the result, the value has already been created, and the reward is inevitable. Value is also multiplied through service. When you help one person, you earn appreciation. When you help hundreds, you earn recognition. When you help millions, you earn wealth, influence, and legacy. The scale of your value determines the scale of your reward. This is why ideas, inventions, and innovations can transform not only lives, but entire industries. The greater the impact, the greater the reward, But here is the catch. The marketplace will not pay you more until you first become more. People wait for opportunity, but opportunity waits for growth. People say, when I get paid more, I'll work harder. But the marketplace says, when you work harder and smarter, then you will get paid more. It is not about waiting for a raise. It is about raising your value. This is the true power of self-development. Every book you read, every skill you learn, every habit you master increases your value. And as your value increases, your influence expands, your confidence rises, your opportunities multiply, and your rewards grow. We have walked through some of the greatest lessons life can offer. That success is hidden inside failure. That discipline builds the bridge between what we dream and what we achieve. That change must begin with us, not the world. That happiness is not discovered, but designed. That success is attracted, not chased. That instead of wishing for less problems, we should wish to become better. That our philosophy shapes our destiny. And that the marketplace rewards value, not need. Each of these lessons carries one central truth. Life does not give us what we want. It gives us what we deserve through who we become. And the most empowering part is that every single day and every single choice, we have a chance to become more disciplined, more valuable, more prepared, more focused, more grateful, more determined. So here's the challenge I leave with you today. Don't to just listen to these lessons. Live them. Take them from words to action, from ideas to habits, from habits to results. Start small, but start today. Because one decision can change your entire direction, and one new direction can change your entire life. The greatest lesson is not written in books. It is written in the actions you take after you hear the truth. So take this lesson, carry it with you, and let it shape the person you are becoming. Because the moment you decide to grow, the moment you decide to change, the moment you decide to add value, that is the moment your life begins to transform, And when people one day ask you, what was the greatest lesson you ever learned? You will be able to say, with conviction, the greatest lesson was learning that the future was not something I waited for. It was something I created.